Welcome back. I am Mary Rebecca, working as Assistant Professor in Department of Civil Engineering, SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Kottangulathur. In today's lecture, we will be discussing about project management in smart cities. These are all the content for this lecture. Phases, stages of project and WBS, project organization structure, planning, scheduling and CPM, project cost analysis. Finally, we will be discussing about the resource allocation and leveling. So the phases of project. There are 5 main phases of a particular project is there. First one is initiation phase. The key activities in this particular phase include identification of project goals and business needs, conduction of feasibility study, definition of scope at a high level, preparation of project charter, finally identification of stakeholders and their expectation. Deliverables in this particular phase are project charter, feasibility report, initial risk register. The next phase is planning phase. The key activities include developing a detailed work breakdown structure, define the task, responsibility and dependency, prepare project schedule by using any Gantt chart, CPM or PERT. Next, estimation of cost and allocation of resources, identification of risk and mitigation strategies, definition of quality standards and communication plan. In this particular phase, deliverables are project management plan, WBS and schedule, budget plan, risk management plan. The third phase is execution phase. The activities include allocation and management of resources, execution of tasks and activities defined in the WBS, coordination of teams and stakeholders, ensure quality assurance processes are followed, manage communication and stakeholder engagement. Deliverables include project deliverables, progress report and change requests. If suppose any change in the execution is there, means we have to have this particular change request. So the next phase is monitoring and controlling phase. The key activities include monitor progress against baseline, use tools like earned value analysis, CPM, KPI tracking, manage risk and implement corrective actions, control changes via change management process, report project performance to stakeholders. Deliverables include performance report, risk updates, approved change request. Last phase include closing phase. The main activities are obtain client acceptance of deliverables, close contracts with vendors or partners, release project resources, document lessons learned and best practices, conduct post-project evaluation. Deliverables are final project report, lesson learned document, project closure certificate. So the next one is work breakdown structure. It is a hierarchical decomposition of the total scope of work into smaller manageable tasks. The main purpose of this particular WBS are organizes project deliverables into smaller manageable parts. It helps in assigning responsibilities and resources. It forms the basis for project planning, scheduling, budgeting and monitoring. It provides clarity and prevents scope creep. The key features are hierarchical. It starts from the overall project and breaks it into levels. Deliverable oriented means it focuses on outputs rather than activities. Finally, unique coding system. Each task has a separate code. So what are all the levels? First level is entire project. Second level is major deliverables. Third level is sub deliverables. Final level is detailed task. So the benefits of WBS are clear project scope and deliverables, better resource allocation, easier cost estimation. It simplifies the progress tracking and reporting, reduces project risk. So the best example for a construction project was shown in this particular slide. If it is any particular construction project, means it will be divided into so much of subdivisions. The first one is for groundwork, the next one is substructure, the next one is superstructure, finally the roofing. Next is project organization structure. It defines how roles, responsibilities and authority are distributed among the project team members. The main objectives: to clearly define the roles and responsibilities, to ensure efficient communication and coordination among project members, to facilitate efficient decision making, to maintain accountability for project outcomes, to optimize the use of resources. The key elements are project manager, who is responsible for overall planning, execution and delivery. Project team members perform the technical or operational project tasks. Functional manager provide the resources and technical expertise. Support staff, they will handle administration, documentation and logistic. Finally, stakeholder includes clients, sponsors, contractors and other end users. So the types of project organized structures are divided into three. First one is functional, next one is project oriented, the last one is matrix. Functional one is, it is purely based upon the function. It will be classified. The next one is project oriented, means depends upon a particular project, the work will be divided. Finally, the matrix means the combination of both functional and project oriented comes under this particular matrix category. It can be best explained in this particular flow chart. If a particular function was there, means depending upon the different functions, either if it is a geotechnical engineer or a structural engineer or an environmental engineer, accordingly depending upon that particular function, it will be divided into so many groups, and for that particular division, a functional manager will be there. Under a functional manager, so many number of staffs will be there. In that particular one staff will be responsible for that particular project. Similarly, all the functions will be classified accordingly, and the coordination of the whole project will be depending upon the functional manager. If it is a project oriented, means it will be having all together for a particular project. It will be so much of work will be allotted to that particular group members. See here, a project manager will be there. One chief executive will be there. Under a chief executive, so many project members will be there. For one particular project, one project manager will be allocated. Under that particular project manager, so many number of staffs will be allocated. For that particular project, the whole team, the staffs along with the project manager is responsible, and they will be coordinating among the whole project. Next is matrix organization. As already I said, it is the combination of both project oriented and functional structure. You can clearly see this in this particular flow chart. A chief executive will be there. Functional managers will be there. From each and every department, a particular staff will be responsible for that particular project, and the project coordinator will be among these particular persons. The shaded one will be the responsible for all this particular project. The next one is planning. Planning is the process of identifying and defining all the activities required to achieve the project objective. The main objectives include to define the project goals and scope clearly, to identify resources, to establish activity sequence and timelines, to determine cost estimates and budgets, to forecast risk and prepare alternatives, to serve as a basis for monitoring and control. Steps in project planning. Develop project objectives, identify activities and tasks, determine activity sequence, estimate resource and time, develop project schedule, estimate cost and budget, identify risk and mitigation measures, finally prepare the final project plan. The main importance of planning: provides a clear roadmap for execution, minimizes uncertainty and confusion, helps in resource allocation and cost control, facilitates coordination among departments, ensures timely completion of the project. Scheduling. It is the process of arranging, controlling and optimizing work and workloads in a project. It specifies when each activity will start and finish. The main objectives are to determine the start and finish times of all activities, to ensure logical sequence of work, to identify critical and non-critical activities, to provide a basis for monitoring progress, to achieve optimum use of time and resources. So these are all some of the common scheduling tools. Gantt chart, a bar chart which shows the activities on a simple time scale. It is simple and visual. The next one is network diagrams. We can use both PERT as well as CPM. It is a graphical representation showing the sequence and dependency of activities. Finally, milestone chart. It highlights the major project events or achievements. So benefits of scheduling. It helps in tracking progress, enables early identification of delays, it improves coordination among teams, it assists in cost and time management, provides a basis for performance evaluation. So now comes the scheduling part, main method, critical path method. It is a network based technique used to plan, schedule and control complex project. It identifies the longest sequence of dependent activities that determines the minimum project duration. The key concepts include activity, event, network diagram, the critical path, which is the longest path through that particular network. Finally, the float, the amount of time of an activity that can be delayed without affecting the project completion is called float. We want to calculate all this particular earliest start time, earliest finish time, latest start time, latest finish time, and finally the float. All the calculation you have to do, and what was the time limit for that particular project we have to identify for each and every path, and we have to finally conclude the which is the longest path, that is called critical path. See the steps involved. What you have to do means you have to list all the project activities with their duration. If it is an earthquake, if suppose you are taking a construction project, the first and foremost step is digging, excavation will be there. So we want to estimate that particular excavation process, what was the time limit, what are all the resources available, how when we are going to start, when we are going to finish, everything. After finishing, what was the process, everything we have to list it out first itself. Next is determine the dependency among the activities. So what are all the dependent activity? So after this particular activity only we have to start the next activity, or parallelly if we can start that particular activity. So what was the dependency, that we have to know. Next, we have to draw the network diagram using arrows or nodes. The fourth one is calculate the earliest start and finish time. Calculate the latest start and finish time. Then we have to determine the float. Float is nothing but the difference between the latest start and earliest start, latest finish and earliest finish. So you can easily determine the float. Then we have to identify the critical path, which the activities with zero float is called the critical path. Then revise and update as per the project progresses. These are all the steps involved in the critical path method. So the main advantages are: identifies the critical and non-critical activities. It helps in time optimization. It enables resource leveling and cost control. It assists in decision making during delays. It provides a realistic project timeline. So the limitations include not ideal for projects with uncertain duration. If there is any uncertain duration, if we can't judge that particular duration, means what we have to do means we want to go for another scheduling method, that is called PERT. Then it requires accurate estimation of activity time. It can become complex for very large projects. If suppose it is a very large project, means we will be having so much of activities, so much of earlier start time, finish time, so much of float will be there. So clumsiness will be there. It is very difficult. So last one is it needs constant updating as conditions change. So the next one is project cost analysis. It is a process of estimating, evaluating and controlling the costs associated with the project to ensure it is completed within the approved budget and delivers value for money. The main objectives include to estimate the total cost of completing the project, to determine the cost effectiveness of different project alternatives, to monitor and control project expenditures, to evaluate the financial feasibility of the project, to ensure optimum utilization of resources, to assist in decision making during project planning and execution. So components of project cost. It can be divided into two: direct cost and indirect cost. Direct cost include material cost, labor cost, equipment cost, subcontractor cost, and finally the site overheads. Indirect costs include administrative expenses, general overheads, financial costs, and contingency allowances. So the steps involved in this particular project cost analysis. First step is cost estimation. We have to estimate the cost. Next is cost budgeting. We have to budget that particular cost. What was the how much amount of cost were there for that particular project activity, we have to know, and we have to budget it accordingly. Next, cost control. So there are so many tools are available. Based upon that particular tools, we have to track that particular cost. So that we can easily minimize that particular cost. Then cost evaluation. We want to evaluate after each and every project completion, after each and every activity, we want to evaluate it. So we want to compare the estimated versus actual cost, and we have to analyze the cost deviations for future improvements. What was the deviations, why it happened, how we have to reduce that particular thing, everything we have to analyze it in detail. These are all some of the tools and techniques used for cost analysis. EVM, Earned Value Management. It integrates the cost, schedule and scope to measure the performance. Next one is cost benefit analysis. It compares the total expected cost versus total expected benefits. Next one is life cycle costing. So considers the total cost of ownership from initiation to disposal. Next one is variance analysis. It identifies the differences between planned and actual cost. Next one is value engineering. Seeks to improve the project value by reducing project cost analysis in different phases. In the initiation phase, it will be rough cost estimation. In the planning phase, detailed cost estimation. In execution phase, we will be monitoring the expenses. We can control the cost during the execution process, as well as we will be having a performance reporting. Final stage, closer stage means cost evaluation. What are all the lessons learned? The final cost reporting. We will be focusing on these particular things. Factors affecting the project cost: inaccurate estimates, inflation and market price fluctuation, delays due to poor planning, design changes during the construction, poor communication and coordination, unforeseen risks. or natural events. These are all the major factors which affect the project cost. So why the project cost analysis is important? It ensures the financial discipline in project execution. It helps in forecasting future expenditures. It improves decision making and accountability. It prevents cost overruns and delays. It enhances profitability and resource utilization. It provides valuable data for future project planning. Resource allocation and leveling. In project management, resources refer to manpower, machinery, materials and money required to complete a particular task. And this resource allocation and leveling are essential process to ensure optimal use of these resources throughout the project without overloading or underutilizing them. Resource allocation. It is the process of assigning available resources in the most efficient way to various project tasks according to their priority and schedule. The main objectives are to ensure the right resources is available at the right time, to maximize efficiency and productivity, to minimize idle time and wastage of resources, to achieve project objectives within time and budget. Steps involved in resource allocation. First one, identify project activities. Next, we have to determine the resource requirements. Third one is assess the resource availability. Fourth one, we have to assign the resource to that particular task. Then final phase is monitor and adjust the resource. So the tools used for this particular resource allocation is resource histogram, resource allocation chart, responsibility assignment matrix, project management software such as MS Project Primavera are used. Resource leveling. It is a technique used to resolve resource conflicts by adjusting the start and finish dates of activities. It aims to maintain a balanced resource usage over time. The main purpose includes to avoid overloading certain resources, to ensure a consistent workflow and smooth project execution, to reduce fluctuations in resource demand. So the key concept here is if two or more activities require the same limited resource, we have to do this particular resource leveling, delays or rearrange that particular task. So methods of resource leveling. Manual adjustment is there. Mathematical methods is also there. So project manager will reschedule the activities based on the experience and judgment. It is manual adjustment. If it is a mathematical means, either we can use CPM or any other methods, optimization software tools can also be used for resource leveling. Advantages of resource allocation includes efficient use of available resources. It will help to identify the resource shortage earlier. It improves the productivity and control. It supports timely completion of project. Advantages of resource leveling. It reduces the peak and valleys in resource demand. It minimizes the resource conflicts. It improves work continuity and reduces idle time. It leads to better cost control. So the major disadvantage of resource allocation may lead to resource overloading. Resource leveling may delay the overall project duration. It requires accurate data on resource availability. Complex for large scale project. These are all some of the disadvantages of resource allocation and leveling. Resource allocation and leveling are critical to successful project management. They ensure optimum utilization of resources, avoidance of delays and bottlenecks, maintenance of cost and time efficiency. Together, they enhance the overall project performance and sustainability. Thank you.